ठीक है। हेलो।
Yes, sir.
आवाज आ रही है?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
आई थिंक बैकग्राउंड पे इफ यू कैन जस्ट डिस्प्ले द दैट फ्लायर,
Okay, sure, sir.
दैट विल बी नाइस। अच्छा, ये भी बोल दीजिएगा ना कि ये YouTube पे भी लाइव आ रहा है।
जी सर।
ठीक। गुड आफ्टरनून डॉक्टर गुप्ता।
गुड आफ्टरनून विवेक जी।
गुड आफ्टरनून, कैसे हैं?
मैं ठीक हूँ। गुड आफ्टरनून एडी सर।
Good afternoon.
हेलो हेलो। अभी लोग आ जाए तब स्टार्ट कर देगा, एक बार सारे लोग एनालिस्ट चेक कर लें। हाँ हाँ, उधर से आई थिंक ये लोग लाइव करते होंगे ना, एक बार वो जो उनके हर्षित या कीजिए। हेलो, हाँ डॉक्टर गुप्ता
जी।
अच्छा, वो जब स्टार्ट करना होगा तो आपके यहाँ से इंडिकेशन देंगे ना कि वी कैन स्टार्ट नाउ।
हाँ हाँ, अभी जस्ट 2-3 मिनट्स आर रिमेनिंग। 2-3 मिनट्स आर
जी
रिमेनिंग।
जी जी।
ठीक। हाँ तो
और आई थिंक ये बैकग्राउंडर अगर फुल स्क्रीन पे आ जाए ना, जो दिखा रहे हैं अभी।
Doctor, we will start when all the panelists join in, or we'll start on time?
सी एएस मैडम ज्वाइन हो गई।
अभी मिस्टर टपका भी नहीं ज्वाइन हुए।
हाँ, तो एक बार एएस मैडम और जेएस आप ज्वाइन हो जाएं।
आई थिंक एएस मैडम ने ज्वाइन कर लिया है और दिख रहे हैं।
एग्जीक्यूटिव डायरेक्टर इन आईडीएम हैज ऑलरेडी ज्वाइन। टपका साहब हैज आल्सो ज्वाइन।
अच्छा।
ओके
सर, गुड आफ्टरनून।
1 minute.
Good
We'll start time.
गुड आफ्टरनून।
गुड आफ्टरनून डॉक्टर भट्ट।
हाउ आर यू? एडी भट्ट अल्मोड़ा जी सर, ठीक हैं, बढ़िया। और आप ठीक हैं?
जी जी भट्ट साहब बिल्कुल ठीक है।
जी सर।
इसके पैरेलली कुछ ट्वीट मैसेजेस भी बना लीजिएगा फेसबुक और उसके लिए, और स्क्रीनशॉट विद ऑल पैनलिस्ट फोटोग्राफ एंड।
Yes, sir. Sure.
अच्छा, आपका ये बैकग्राउंड फ्लायर फुल स्क्रीन नहीं हो रहा है?
इसको फुल स्क्रीन दिखा सकते हैं क्या श्वेता? हर्षित?
So we are trying. Just a moment.
हाँ, नहीं तो एक बार बालाजी को पूछ लीजिए।
जी जी जी।
जैसा ट्राई कर रहे हैं सर फुल स्क्रीन में लाने का।
This will also be live on YouTube.
Yes, sir, I am sharing the link on chat also, sir. This is live streaming on YouTube.
Yeah. I think Dr. Akhilesh Gupta has also joined.
Yeah, good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, fine. Dr. Gupta, how are you?
Yes, yes. I think long time. First,
Yeah.
Afternoon, sir.
good afternoon.
I think Bindal sir ने भी join कर लिया. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, Bindal sir is also here. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah.
Akhilesh Gupta, sir.
आपके अल्मोड़ा में तो काफी ठंड पड़ रही होगी.
जी सर, ठंड हो गई थोड़ा में सर. तो
Sir,
मौसम भी खराब लग रहा है, आज बारिश का लग रहा है यहाँ पे. जी सर जी.
sir, it is 4 o'clock now. Should we start or?
मैडम को एक बार करेंगे मैडम.
Sir, I cannot check the participants, so Harshit or someone has to check from your.
No.
Right में.
No. Can we ask Mr. Sharat or
Mr. Sharat is already.
Yeah, I have joined. I've joined.
Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Happy
afternoon,
Mountain
madam.
Day, ma'am. And I think Mr. Tapka has also joined. Haan.
Yes,
Ji. So now we can start.
yes.
Yeah. I think initially everybody can switch on the video also, so that you have a panelist screenshot sort of a thing. डॉक्टर गुप्ता आप स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं ना.
जी.
Okay.
Dr. Archana, you can.
Yes, sir. So, good afternoon, everyone. And also good morning to some of our panelists who are joining from Washington, D.C. So welcome, we all welcome you on behalf of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, International Union for Conservation of Nature, and National Institute for Disaster Management. We welcome you to the virtual celebration of the International Mountain Day, which is observed every year on December 11. I would now like, because this is a very tight schedule that we have today, I would now like to invite Mr. Jigmet Tappa, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, to deliver the welcome address. Mr. Tappa?
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So there is voice break.
Sir, your voice is breaking. I think some connectivity problem. Yeah.
So then in case I will put...
Now it's fine, sir. Now it's fine.
It's fine. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes,
it's fine,
yes.
sir. You can start, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Today's chief guest, Shri Prakash Javadkar, Honorable Minister of Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Miss Uma Devi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Advisor, Department of Science and Technology, Major General Manoj Kumar, Bindal, Executive Director, NIDM. Mr. Tapas Paul, Senior Environmental Specialist, World Bank. Dr. I.D. Bhatt, Scientist, G.P. Pant, Institute of Himalayan Studies. Dr. Vivek Saxena, Country Representative, Iucn. Dr. Ali Raza Rizvi, Senior Advisor, Iucn, Washington, D.C. Ms. Corinne Demeng, Head of Swiss Corporation, Swiss Embassy. Dr. Anil Gupta, Professor and Head, NIDM. And all the distinguished guests who are connected virtually today to celebrate the International Mountain Day. International Mountain Day is celebrated every year on 11th December. The attention to the importance of mountain, the UN to declare 2002 the UN International Year of Mountains. This day is celebrated for the first time in 2003. It roots date back to 1992 when the document Managing Fragile Ecosystem, Sustainable Mountain Development, called Chapter 13, was adopted as a part of Action Plan Agenda 21 on Conference on Environment and Development. Today, we are celebrating the International Day 2020 during the COVID-19 situation. The theme for this year is mountain biodiversity, and it becomes more appropriate as the world is realizing the importance of nature's treasure of biodiversity. The importance of mountain has known as a provider of goods and services to well over half the global population. On account of these values, mountain ecosystems are being considered as essential building block for long-term sustainable development, poverty alleviation, and transition to a green economy. All these features and many more have established mountains as global priority. Mountain, as you know, covers 20% and 27% of the Earth's surface, and they are the storehouse for biodiversity. Mountains are home to 15% of world's population and host about half the world's biodiversity hotspots. Of the 20 plant species that symbolize 80% of the world food, 6 originated have been diversified in mountains. More than half the humanity relies on mountains for fresh water for everyday life. Mountains have around half the biodiversity hotspots. 30% of the all key biodiversity area are in the mountains. Many of the mountain crops, livestock originate in mountains. Mountain biodiversity provides us food, medicine, maintains water, soil, air. Poverty and vulnerability to climate change remain the key issue in the mountain region. In addition, out-migration, erosion of landscape, low investment compound with the plight of the mountains people. The Himalaya region is susceptible to a whole range of eco-physical and hydrometeorological hazards. The mountain already have high hazard and risk profile of the region, but this has been exacerbated with the increase in incident of climate-induced hydrometeorological disasters. The steep slope of the Himalaya, along with the depleted forest, vegetation cover, and high seismicity have been the major factor in soil erosion and sedimentation of rivers, reaches. This further creates vulnerability in terms of landslide in the mountain region. Outside the polar region, the short-term and long-term more perceptibly in Hindu-Kush regions. Hydrometeorological hazards like warming in the Himalayas are being greater than the global average. There had been increase in number of frequency and intensity of hydrometeorological hazard like glacial lake outburst floods, flash floods, cloudburst, landslide, and drought. With the population increase, the frequency and the subsequent damage due to forest fire is increasing day by day. The impact of fire is diverse on the forest ecosystem. Besides directly damaging the forestry, the fire also adversely affects the forest regeneration, microclimate, soil erosion, and wildlife. In most of the cases, the forest fire causes retrogression of forest vegetation. It has wide-ranging adverse ecological, economic, and social implications. Globally speaking, forest fires all over the world are underreported, and this needs to be changed. Communities are exposed to new and bigger challenges, and vulnerability of people are already high due to unsafe construction practice, lack of preparedness, planning, and inadequate capacity is increasing. Need to enhance disaster risk reduction in mountain community. Work is still required to promote greater understanding of climatic hazards and risk, and work with the local community to strengthen institutional mechanism. Enhance capacity of local institutions and first responder through multi-stakeholder approach. Enhance regional coordination and strengthening knowledge networking in mountain areas on disaster risk reduction. An important long-term investment is using an integrated watershed management approach to disaster risk reduction, strengthening land use planning, promoting natural resource management, and feasible risk mitigation measure at the community level becomes an important strategy. Iucn has been leading on this with ECO-DRR, that is ECO Disaster Risk Reduction. The idea behind the ECO-DRR is an integrated ecosystem management, livelihood, community vulnerability, climate change adaptation, and disaster management. Demonstration of this nature can take up to a scalable model to replication to address similar hydrometeorological risk in an integrated manner in other mountain areas. Realizing the importance of this region as a unique treasure for environmental goods and services and rich biodiversity and repository of diversity, including cultural, ethnic, considering its sensitivity to natural disaster, climatic and anthropogenic perturbation, the Government of India has accorded Himalaya the highest priority. Ministry of Environment and Forest in particular is pursuing the SDG Goal 15 to restore and promote sustainable use of terrestrial ecosystem, including mountains, sustainably manage forest, combat desertification, and halt and reverse land degradation and biodiversity loss. National Mission on Himalayan Studies has been launched in 2015 to address mountain issues with focus on demand-driven action research. Under the mission, as many as 172 action research projects has been sanctioned with largely focus on biodiversity conservation, livelihood, water, and skilled building. More than 250 institutions and agencies are directly involved in implementing these projects, benefiting India, Himalayan region states, and union territories. Ministries to key institutions like GB Pant, National Institute of Himalayan Environment, Forest Research Institute, Wildlife Institute of India, Botanical Survey of India, Zoological Survey of India have significantly engaged in the Indian Himalayan region. There is need for higher level of funding, investment in mountain areas, particularly in the Indian Himalayan region. It will require enhanced coordination, collaboration, along with stronger enabling environment and more supportive laws and policies and institutions. This is a very important, indeed an important occasion which will give us a roadmap to achieve the target for sustainable development of mountains. Mountain Day, International Mountain Day has been created so that we can enhance and embrace the wonders and magic of the mountain around us. There are truly spectacular mountains all around the world. On this day, we appreciate the grandeurs of the world's mountains. I welcome you all to this webinar on the role of mountains and Himalaya in particular in addressing the issue of climate change and disaster risk reduction. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Takpa, for your welcome address and highlighting the importance mountains hold in our lives, and also Government of India's some of the initiatives, flagship initiatives. May I now request Dr. Vivek Saxena, Iucn India country representative, to give his opening remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Archana. At the outset, I welcome everyone on behalf of IUCN and wish a very happy International Mountain Day, having this year theme of mountain biodiversity. So Honorable Minister Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, Additional Secretary Madam Uma Devi, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Major General Bindal, Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management, Mr. Jigme Tapka, Joint Secretary, Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Advisor and Head from Department of Science and Technology. He's the head also of the SPICE. Mr. Tapas Paul from World Bank, Dr. I.D. Bhatt from GB Pant Institute, Dr. Ali Raza Rizvi, my colleague in IUCN, is a Senior Advisor, Resilience, IUCN Washington DC office, who is joining all the way from Washington in such an early hours today. So welcome, Dr. Rizvi. And Miss Corny Deringe, she is the head of the Swiss Corporation Office, Embassy of Switzerland, and Shri Pankaj Rana, Wildlife Warden Ladakh, and Dr. Anil Gupta from NIDM. So I wish everyone a very happy International Mountain Day. And at the outset, let me briefly introduce about the IUCN, though you may be all aware, but for the benefit of the participants, the International Union for Conservation of Nature, the largest conservation network set up in 1948, was set up, has shaped the global conservation agenda in the last more than 70 years. Maybe having the World Conservation Strategy, the 3 ORIA conventions related to the climate change, biodiversity, desertification, and also sustainable development goals, and now post-2020 biodiversity framework negotiation. And IUCN, this network stands of more than around 1,500 members. That includes the governments, the civil society organizations, and also across 6 IUCN commissions. We have more than 15,000 this membership network across 6 commissions. The one of the key commission for which everyone is aware of, the Species Survival Commission, and one of the knowledge product for which IUCN has a brand by which it is known is the red listing of the species. So with this brief introduction, I will just show you a 2-minute small introductory movie of IUCN, which will capture the IUCN journey since its setup from 1948 till now. May I request to...
Yes, sir, yes. Sharing, sir.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So this was just a brief introductory movie so that IUCN through this conservation network is playing a very important role, and especially when we are facing this COVID pandemic. So this year only IUCN has also launched the global standards on nature-based solutions. And we have realized, and today in the meeting which was chaired by Honorable Minister also mentioned in the meeting of the State Biodiversity Board Council, that if as a human being we have to survive, we can survive only if we protect the nature, we care for the nature. So that connect with the nature is very important, and especially on the Mountain Day when we are talking about the Mountain Day, the specific theme on the mountain diversity. So this is very important because most of the diversity that occurs naturally and species conservation of the habitat is key for conservation of the biodiversity. In the Indian context, India has some of the highest mountain ranges. Generally, when we talk of the mountain, we generally talk of the Himalayas. But apart from that, with the rich biodiversity, there are 7 prominent mountain ranges in India. The mighty Himalayas, the Karakoram and Pir Panjal range, the Purvanchal range or the Eastern mountain range that comprises of the 3 parts, the Patkai Burn Hill, the Garo Khasi Jayantia Hill, and Lusai Hill, that is also known as the Mizo Hill. The Satpura and Vindhya range lies in the central India, and both of these ranges, they run parallel to each other. The oldest mountain range of India, Aravallis, you can say the heritage mountain range, which is just next to Delhi in the NCR region. It's starting from, originate from the Gujarat and ends up in the Raisina Hills in Delhi. That is the oldest mountain range. The Western Ghats is around 1600 kilometer long mountain range that runs from Gujarat to Kanyakumari in South India. The mountain range is also called Sahyadri Mountains, which comprises of the mountain range of Nilgiri, Annamalai, and Kardama. Eastern Ghats mountain range running in the eastern part of the Indian Peninsula, parallel to Bay of Bengal. So these mountain ranges together, they ensure various type of ecosystem services, regulation of the climate, sustainability of the water resources, and overall providing the services based on which our food systems are sustained. And today on this Mountain Day, when we talk of the various issues, the protection, conservation of these mountain ranges, which nature has provided to us, that we need to take care of, and we have to take pledge. And some of the example in terms of, because most of this species richness, species diversity, the traditional knowledge, that is from the mountains only. And IUCN, through its lead listing process, plays a very vital role in categorizing the species into various categories as per the IUCN Red List. And one of the recent example is that fungus, that the caterpillar fungus, the cordyceps, which IUCN categorized that how the over exploitation of this species has led to it to give it a vulnerable status. So it alarms the various conservationists, the national governments, also at international level, how to initiate conservation action in respect of the species conservation control. So IUCN in India is also undertaking a number of activities related to the mountains, and especially some of the activities which have been also supported by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. And one of the projects which we recently completed with the support under National Mission on Himalayas is released, and coping with uncertainties, under which we have also set up a Himalayan Adaptation Network, in which best case studies, best practices, and also knowledge sharing forum, interactive forum that has been launched this year only in the month of July, in which the knowledge products will be available. At the same time, you can interact also. So especially on the Mountain Day, if Ministry of Environment and Forest can think of that, because generally we focus on the Himalayas only, but other mountain ranges together as a, you can say, knowledge resource base, if some such sort of a platform can be one of the, I think, key thought process which can be triggered, and we can think of taking it further in future, so that all the important traditional knowledge and the importance of these resource base is available on a single platform that can be made available. Apart from this, some of the corporates also with which IUCN is in partnership, one of the very important program which we have launched this year is only, that is Himalayas for Future program, that is supported by the Tata Group, in which one of the very key component is that is scenario modeling or scenario building, in which how the Himalayas in future, based on the various type of policy interventions in the institutional network, how that impact will the livelihoods and what can be the scenario is possible down the years. And based on this scenario, we want to achieve, we can plan in advance so that our Himalayas are sustained, their ecosystems are services are sustained. Because downhill, our food system through these rivers, they are all, most of these rivers, they originate in mountains only. And downstream, our livelihoods, our very survival, our food system, they depend on all this. Like Hindu Kush Himalayas also is one of the example, which is a long mountain chain, and for which I think other panelists will also touch upon. And with these words, once again, I thank Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and also National Disaster Management, that IUCN and MoEFCC and NIDM, we have come on a common platform to support this very important webinar, and importance of it can be gauged and how much interest it has generated already on this, more than I think around 130 participants, and also it is being streamed live on YouTube. And I think it is a very, very important in today's scenario when during COVID time, we are mainly interacting in online mode. So certainly it has generated a lot of interest. And with these words, I thank everyone once again and welcome to all the participants on behalf of IUCN. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vivek Saxena, for your opening remarks. May I now invite Major General Manoj K. Bindal, Executive Director, National Institute of Disaster Management, to present his opening remarks. Mr. Bindal.
Thank you, Dr. Archana. First of all, heartiest welcome to all the participants and greetings to all the communities who are present on this important day when we are celebrating the International Mountain Day with the theme as Mountain Diversity. It's a very important topic on which IUCN, Ministry of Environment and Forest and Climate Change and the National Institute of Disaster Management have come together to commemorate this particular day and to show the concern that the government has for the mountains and for the maintaining and saving the diversity of the mountains in the country. We are aware that their mountains are under threat from climate change and overexploitation. And as the global climate continues to warm, mountain people who are some of the world's poorest, they face even greater struggles to survive. Rising temperatures also mean that mountain glaciers are melting at unprecedented rates, affecting freshwater supplies downstream for millions of people. Climate change, unsustainable farming practices, commercial mining, logging, and poaching, they all are exacting a very heavy toll on the mountain diversity. As also the issues of land use, land cover change, and natural disasters, they are accelerating this biodiversity loss, and they contribute to creating a very fragile environment for the mountain communities. The ecosystem degradation, loss of livelihoods, and migration in mountains are leading to abandonment of cultural practices and ancient traditions that have sustained the biodiversity for generations through local practices. So it is very important that sustainable mountain development should be a global priority, given the multitude of ecosystems, goods, and services they provide to both mountain and downstream population. The conservation and climate-informed management of biodiversity and ecosystems increases the resilience to climate change and also provides low-cost and long-term solutions to protect lives, livelihoods, and infrastructure, and advance the progress towards sustainable development goals. Human economic, and social development relies on the health of the natural systems. And ecosystems can significantly reduce, good ecosystems can significantly reduce the impact of floods, catastrophic storms, and serious droughts, and can offset vast amounts of world carbon dioxide emissions which are taking place. And ecosystem-based adaptation, EBA, it provides multiple benefits in terms of poverty alleviation through livelihood opportunities, carbon storage, and biodiversity conservation. So it is one of the most effective pro-poor approaches to climate change adaptation of enhancing the adaptive capability of the most vulnerable community, especially women, the elderly, and the children, as well as the resilience of the ecosystems and their services, which is like water, fresh water, food security, climate regulations, and so on. So this and it can be done through restoration of natural capital and biodiversity conservation, restoration, and regeneration measures wherever applicable. There are many actions which can be taken to protect the fragile mountain ecosystem. In particular, I'll just list out a few of them. First is to increase global awareness, which we are doing today as part of that. It is to be, mountains have to be recognized. We have to recognize mountains as early warning indicators of the climate change and do a thorough research on such topics. We should consider the approaches to address the loss and damage associated with climate change and impact in mountains, take into account the UNFCC's work program on loss and damage, which was taken out. We must recognize that the unsustainable use of natural resources and ecosystems in mountains limit their ability to curb the impacts of climate change and natural hazards. There's a need to strengthen the sustainable use of natural resources in mountain areas, adopt integrated multi-sectoral ecosystem management approaches, which includes climate change adaptation, and which can benefit mountain communities as well as downstream areas. We also need to support the development of sustainable solutions and practices in the fields of water, food security, renewable energy, energy efficiency in the mountain areas, which will provide benefits for climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction, while also considering the needs and priorities of men and women who reside in the mountain areas. Enhancing the role of women in adaptation and disaster risk reduction is very, very important for a resilient mountain community. In addition to disaster risk reduction efforts, adaptation programs on various aspects of food security, agriculture, rangelands, managing natural resources, as well as the efforts in disaster risk reduction, they should be implemented in ways that are sensitive and responsive to the different and multiple roles of women and men that they play in various spheres of the natural resources management. So keeping this in this particular webinar today is very, very important, as we have a range of speakers, eminent speakers, who will be talking on multi-issues regarding conserving mountain diversity. And I wish all the participants a very good learning curve for next 2 hours. Thank you so much. Over to you, Dr. Archana.
Thanks a lot, Major General Bindal, and especially for highlighting the various actions that you mentioned, important for conserving our mountain ecosystems. I take this opportunity now to invite Ms. B.V. Umadevi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, to please give her keynote address. Thank you, ma'am. Yours.
Thank you. Honorable Minister for Environment and Forests, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, Shri Vivek Saxena ji, my colleague from the ministry, Shri Tapka, other officers of Iucn, other representatives from other organizations, and all the participants of this workshop. A very good afternoon and a very warm welcome to this workshop on this occasion of International Mountain Day. The theme of, as mentioned by my previous speakers of today's, this year's International Mountain Day is mountain biodiversity. Biodiversity, as we all know, is the variety of life on Earth, which is very vital to the social and economic development and fundamental to our survival. So this is the right time to talk about biodiversity, as this year is the super year for biodiversity, and as the entire world is working on the post-2020 biodiversity conservation framework, which will be adopted in the 15th Conferences of Party to be held in Kunming in China, which got postponed due to COVID. And as we all know, the mountain ecosystems are very, very complex and highly fragile ecosystems, and they're rich in biodiversity as well as traditional knowledge, and they are life support systems of the planet, and they provide essential ecosystem services like water, pure air, and other essential items like food, fodder, fiber, and medicines, and on which the entire humanity depends. So mountains cover around 25% of the Earth's surface and are home to around 12% of the human population and of the globe, and are under threat from climate change and overexploitation and are prone to these natural disasters. Recognizing the important role played by the mountains, the Sustainable Development Goal 15 specifically considers conservation of mountains as a key factor in sustainable development and calls for strengthening cooperation among stakeholders and efforts for conservation of mountain ecosystems. India, with only 2.4% of the world's land area and has around 7 to 8% of the recorded species. That is over 46,000 species of plants and 91,000 species of animals of the globe. And among the 34 global biodiversity hotspots, 4 are represented in India: the Himalayas, Western Ghats, Northeast, and Andaman Nicobar Islands. So the mountain ecosystems in India, particularly the Indian Himalayan region, plays a very important role in shaping the sustainable development strategy in India. The Indian Himalayan region, it harbors around nearly 50% of the total flowering plants in India, and of which 36 are endemic to the region. The Eastern Himalayan region is known for the center of origin of cultivated plants, as over 50 important plant species originated in this region. The wealth of biodiversity of this Indian Himalayan region supports people's livelihood directly or indirectly through a range of ecosystem goods and services. In this region, around 675 wild plant species are used by different communities for food, medicine, fodder, fuel, timber, agricultural tools, etc. About 1,740 species of medicinal values are found in this Indian Himalayan region, and of these, some provide very important and life-saving drugs that accrue immense economic wealth. Several studies have shown that Himalayas are warming at a very faster pace than the global average. They were increasing the vulnerability and impacting the livelihoods of 40 million people residing in this region. And biodiversity conservation is a very important nature-based solution to climate change. The challenge before India is to imbibe and translate the theme of biodiversity for sustainable development for fundamental needs of development. In this respect, people, science, policy interface is should be given importance. The economics of ecosystems and biodiversity, the TEEP study, is an initiative of Ministry of Environment and Forests, Government of India, and it recognizes that the economic consequences of loss of biodiversity and the associated decline in ecosystem services and the associated decline in ecosystem essential for human well-being. So another effort by the GOI is the expansion of protected areas in Himalayas. The protected areas network of the Himalayan region covers about 15% of the geographical area of the region, which is at par with the international norms. The development of Himalayan region is a priority for government of India, and it is funding around 2 national missions: National Mission on Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystems and the National Mission on Himalayan Studies. As mentioned by my colleague, Mr. Tapka, we have a large number of projects under this mission. We have around 52 projects which are awarded for conservation and management of mountain biodiversity in Himalayan regions. And we have around 6 state-of-the-art Himalayan nature learning centers, which have been established in 6 Himalayan region states for creating awareness among various stakeholders about mountain biodiversity and its importance. And I do agree with Mr. Saxena that we also need to focus more on other mountain regions of India, other than Himalayas. As mentioned by the Joint Secretary, yeah, there is a need for coordination and collaboration among the stakeholders, particularly the state governments, along with a stronger enabling environment for more supportive policies and interventions. So with these words, I once again welcome all of you for this webinar. And I'm sure that through fruitful and discussions and deliberations during the technical sessions will help all of you and all of us in better understanding of challenges and opportunities these mountain regions face. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot for your inspiring words, and which only reflects the high importance ministry puts on the conservation of the mountain ecosystems. I now invite Honorable Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, for his address. Sir.
Yes, ma'am, sharing.
फुल स्क्रीन कर दीजिए.
Today, world is celebrating Mountain Day. This is because as Mountain Day. Mountain is not geographical peculiarity, but it helps in preserving the nature as it is today.
Thank you so much for the address by the Honorable Minister. Now we will get into some of the technical presentations, and without wasting much time because we are running a little behind schedule, I would now like to invite Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, Advisor and Head SPLICE, Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, to enlighten us on some of the learnings and programs under the National Mission for Sustaining Himalayan Ecosystem. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Archana, and very good afternoon. Sri Prakash Javadekar ji, the Honorable Minister for Environment, Forests and Climate Change, Mrs. Uma Devi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment and Forests and Climate Change, Major General Manoj Kumar Vindal, ED NIDM, Dr. Vivek Saxena, Country Representative IUCN, Sri Jignat Takka, the Joint Secretary in the Ministry of Environment and Forests and Climate Change, distinguished participants, invitees, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, let me wish all a very, I would say, my greetings on the occasion of International Mountain Day. And of course, in India, we also celebrate the Himalayan Day, that is on 9th of September every year. But I have been, in fact, personally and emotionally connected to the mountains, and especially the Himalaya, for more than a decade or so. And I, in fact, traveled from east to west, entire Himalaya, almost every state I have gone and seen. And so it is not only, I mean, in terms of the scenic beauty that it has, got something very unique every part of the Himalaya has. And these kind of, and so therefore they put together, Himalaya displays a very unique, I would say, not only just climate, but a unique biodiversity, and even in terms of food, in terms of dresses, in terms of all kind of practices that people have, is something very, very unique. And therefore that needs a lot of preservation and protection from everybody. The biodiversity is something which is going to be a very key factor getting impacted by climate change. And there are now greater evidences that climate change has a direct impact on biodiversity. And this is already taking place in several parts of the world, but especially in the Indian region, that this kind of change is already forcing species to adapt either through migration, through changing the phenological cycles, or developing new physiological traits. And if you look at the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Report, it's very clearly mentioned there that climate change is likely to become one of the most substantial drivers of biodiversity lost by end of this century. So that kind of, but there are some fundamental questions that we need to ask in this context. How can we better understand feedback mechanism? Still, there is not clarity on this between the climate change and biodiversity. This feedback process need to be understood by us. Also, the what impact the projected temperature will have. So far, there has been good conservation and adaptation seen by the environment, and the ecosystem has been able to adapt. but what kind of impact this projected change will have, especially when you go beyond, say, a limit of 2 degrees centigrade or more than that. Third point, which is we are in fact discussing today, is the weather extremes. And so the damage that biodiversity is experiencing is because of the extremes in terms of temperature extremes, the rainfall, the storms, or the what you call the kind of cyclonic system that are there, and we do not have clear understanding as of now what kind of damage it has done or it is going to do it. And in future, when these extremes are going to become much more pronounced, what impact it will have in the Indian Himalayan region. Another question which is very important is that do we have any case studies where we have been able to have understanding that the kind of biodiversity conservation strategies that we have put in have been able to help reducing the impact of climate change, which means the action, that adaptive action that we are taking, how far it is successful in the context of Himalaya. Now, putting all these 4 questions into context, the Department of Science and Technology has launched a national mission for sustaining the Himalayan ecosystem to find answers to such questions, and especially how Himalayan ecosystem react to the changes due to the anthropogenic or human-induced action or activities. We had set up several programs, and these are all targeted programs. Target is, and the biodiversity is at the heart of the all these actions that we have taken. So, for example, we set up 6 thematic task forces. They are in the different areas of a Himalayan ecosystem. Say Himalayan glaciers and associated hydrological consequences, biodiversity conservation including forestry and protection, wildlife conservation and protection, the Himalayan agriculture and horticulture getting impacted by climate change, and of course the traditional knowledge system, which is very rich in the Himalayan region concerning their connect to the livelihood. We have in fact come out with a very detailed ecosystem health assessment report. Beside that, the role of, I think it has been highlighted by Additional Secretary also, the role of state government is very, very important. We have set up state climate change cells in 12 out of 13 states and union territories, and very soon we are going to have one in Ladakh. They had done some very outstanding work, and they had put together, have worked themselves with our help of DST team, analyzing and mapping the vulnerability of district and sub-district wise vulnerability due to climate change. And that has really helped, identifying the major ecosystem issues for the Himalayan region. The specific question that is being debated and being investigated by our teams through various other programs has been able to focus biodiversity as the core area of research. So not only just the biodiversity in terms of agriculture, forestry, or the wildlife, but of all even societal diversity that this Himalaya enjoys. I think I would not go into the detail because there is not much time, but I would say that, if you see in totality, the moot question that is being debated today is that how far we can go to avoid the impact on biodiversity due to climate change. And this is the question. In fact, this needs an answer. What is the limit of a change that would not impact biodiversity or make an reversible the biodiversity become irreversible design? I think that is a very basic question that needs to be answered by the scientists. So this is definitely a major scientific question, that how far we can go in the climate change to preserve and protect our biodiversity. So with that, thank you once again. I thank the NIDM and Ministry of Environmental Affairs and Iucn and all those organizers who have invited me. And thank you so much. This is a very important area, and think I once again convey my greetings on the occasion of International Mountain Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Dr. Gupta, and especially for highlighting the various questions that we need to answer through our research. More research needed in the mountain ecosystems, which are especially on the feedback mechanisms on biodiversity and climate change. Now, I would like to invite Mr. Tapas Paul, Lead Environment Specialist, World Bank, to share his views on mountains and development. Tapas, floor is yours.
Thank you, Archana ji. Honorable Minister Javadekar ji, Additional Secretary Mrs. Uma Devi ji, Joint Secretary Mr. Major General Bindal, Dr. Bhatt, Dr. Vivek Saxena, Dr. Rijvi, Ms. Deveneje, Dr. Anil Gupta, and Mr. Pankaj. With your permission, please allow me to express my gratitude to the Ministry, Iucn, and NIDM for inviting me to speak to a panelist or in a panel like this, and to people who are very, very knowledgeable on this subject. Also, please allow me to convey on behalf of the World Bank Group the greetings on the occasion of the Mountain Day to all the people of the mountains who live in the mountains and people of the mountains who live outside the mountains range, and all the people who love the mountains, which is a huge number of people in the world. Talking from a panel is always difficult because very little to add to what has been said. There are things which are well known. And even if there are some data difference, things are more or less settled now. Whether it is 12% of the world area is under mountain or 24, that debate can go on. But what is known is that if it is 12% of the land area, non-Antarctic land area of the world is mountains, they contain 25% of the biodiversity. If it is 24% of the land area considered as mountains, they contain 50% of the biodiversity. What is also known as the non-tree alpine areas, which is world area, non-Antarctic world surface area, they contain 4% of the biodiversity of the world. So mountain areas are natural niche for biodiversity. So on the Mountain Day, talking about biodiversity is only very natural. The values of mountains on ecosystem services is always already very well known. Even the alpine area tourism is very well known, is that between 70 to $100 billion of tourism is from alpine areas of the mountains world over. So this is a very attractive thing for the people who are not even in the mountains. The mountain areas have a lot of people whose livelihood and their life depends on mountains. It is also very well known that climate change impacts will be disproportionate on the mountains, particularly on the alpine areas and the glaciers. And this has been lots of research on that. And in our countries, the research on black carbon is also starting now. So all of this point out that there is a need for action. The World Bank has been involved in biodiversity protection in mountain areas across the world. In India, we have projects currently in Meghalaya. We are financing projects in Himachal Pradesh. We had recently closed our projects in Uttarakhand, and earlier we had financed projects in Vindhyas, Western Ghats, Nilgiri, all of these areas. And other than that, I mean, across Africa, South American mountains, the Mount Alps, the Himalaya Hindu Kush region, lots of projects are being financed, which is not very difficult to understand because World Bank is the largest financier of environment and biodiversity projects in the world. So we have lots of work. By 2010, we had projects worth $3 billion on mountains and biodiversity. So without getting into details of it, what are the lessons that we have learned from those projects that World Bank financed, along with the governments that we finance the projects with? One is that biodiversity, we talk about biodiversity, but biodiversity mapping and biodiversity studies in mountain areas are so much more difficult than non-mountain areas. I mean, that is something which needs to be always kept in mind, that whatever we say that biodiversity is rich in mountains, maybe we are underestimating, maybe we do not know. What we have also understood that climate change impacts on mountains cannot be solved by actions in the mountain area. The climate change impacts are coming outside the mountain areas, and there has to be non-local actions outside mountain areas to be of any help to the mountains, in addition to whatever work we do on the mountain ranges. And the last thing that we generally see in all projects is that landscape management approach is the way to go, because there are several demands on mountain ecosystem and the land in the mountains, and therefore a landscape management approach would always be better compared to a simple protection work. So these are not very different from the regular wisdom that we also get from our partners, the governments, IUCN, WWF, and others who are working on mountains and biodiversity conservation. The regular wisdoms are in basically three buckets. One is that protection and conservation of biodiversity and ecosystem services in the mountain is very, very important, particularly because of climate change impacts. So that's one bucket of lesson we get. Second bucket of lessons that we know that local community livelihood is very important, and without full participation of the local community, mountain landscapes will not be conserved. And the third bucket of wisdom that we receive everywhere from South America to Himalaya Hindu Kush is that ecosystem services and payment for ecosystem services are very, very important. And all of these have actually been recognized by the governments, saying that conservation of the mountains and conservation of biodiversity in the mountains is a global commons issue. And it's a global issue, has to be thought about and strategized as a global issue. Now, these are the regular wisdom. So I thought that I will put in some of my personal opinions on this, if you allow. So I think that for the mountain lovers and the people of the mountains, we need to think about something more, because the conservation and protection bucket of wisdom actually places a moral burden on the governments and people outside the mountains to initiate action on conservation of the mountains. And if that was supposed to work, we have not seen much of an evidence of it, because everybody understands the importance of mountains, but it doesn't seem that there is enough activity, enough work and investment. Conservation costs money. So funded conservation work has not seen much of a progress. We need to think a little more. We have now in India, we have the world's largest ever payment for ecosystem services program, which is the fiscal transfer of 7.5% of our gross revenue, central gross revenue to the states, which has given in last 5 years $7.4 billion to the states for conservation of the forests. Now, 5 years is too little a time to really think about, comment on whether it is successful or not, but general understanding is that this has not been resulting into any biodiversity conservation or forest conservation on the forests, on the hill state. So then what can be done? Maybe it's successful, maybe it will be successful, but there's something more needs to be done. So I'll, for your consideration and debate, I would think that 4 things we can start thinking about, and this is the responsibility of mountain lovers. One is that we need to think about the advantages that mountains can still bring in addition to the traditional advantages, traditional ecosystem services, which has been always provided and recognized, not necessarily paid for, but recognized. So what additions mountains can provide to the non-mountainous areas? And one of that area would be about thinking about nitrogen cycle, because planetary boundary on nitrogen has been breached long time ago. Nitrogen has accumulated in every part of the world. Hill areas are a little, probably relatively free of nitrogen accumulation in the soil. So maybe we should start a different development model based on the mountains or probably lower mountain areas, thinking about how can we create a model for non-nitrogen intensive development model. A very important part of the mountain work should be thinking about agrobiodiversity. Ministry of Environment and us, World Bank, we studied one particular example I'm giving of Ascot landscape. And we discovered that Ascot landscape had native varieties of native 221 varieties of food crops, 105 varieties of native cereals, 21 pulses, 10 producing plants, 31 vegetables and 31 fruits. These are native agrobiodiversity of Ascot landscape, and this aspect has not been really thought about. How can this be used for benefit of not only the mountain but benefit of the entire country or all mountain dependent areas? So Georgia had a good example about it. Maybe we can think about it. In Mexico, they have created a monarch butterfly reserve, a big mountain reserve on monarch butterfly. Now, Himalaya Hindu Kush region is the place where all the honeybees and the pollinating bees are found. And pollinating bees are a big problem right now in agriculture. And people have started thinking about artificial pollinating because bees are not available. Now, Himalaya Hindu Kush reserve that we have of bees, if we can actually think about using it for the entire agriculture of the country, particularly because there is now a lot of emphasis on going back to traditional means of zero input agriculture. So nitrogen-free natural pollinator, which is the mountain can only give now because everywhere else we have lost it. So these are things that we can think about. We need to also think about how to integrate more and more nature, culture, tradition in the conservation of the mountains, because only biodiversity may not be attractive enough, but because of the tradition that we had, and Mongolia has a good example, WWF and government of Mongolia has worked on this. The tradition, conservation of the tradition in Mongolia, which actually resulted in better conservation of the mountain biodiversity. We need to, of course, think about, and this is known, that we have not done enough work on the NTF value chains, particularly medicinal plant value chains in the country. And maybe we still have some reserves of those NTFP and medicinal plants. In many places we have lost it, but remaining, we should actually think about branding, creating geographic patent of all of those things, because this is going to be a great demand, as has been proven during this last few months. And I would like to end saying that Government of India programs has been discussed, and 2 more programs are very, very exciting from a point of view of biodiversity conservation in the mountain areas. One is the Spring Shade program in the hills as part of the Jal Jeevan mission, or as complementary to Jal Jeevan mission. This is really exciting, and we should think about how to integrate our work with the Spring Shade program to think about how mountains can give more and more benefit to the people. And the last one is, of course, about this entire zero input agriculture and how mountains can help the country, India and other countries, to move in that direction. And that will be something which will be additional incentive for conservation of biodiversity. These are my personal views up for debates. Thank you very much for listening to me, and thank you very much again, and greetings from the World Bank Group again. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Mr. Tapas Paul, for sharing your views. And I think the part about how mountains can mean more to us who live outside the mountains, I think some of those points are very critical regarding the non-nitrogen based farming practices, agrobiodiversity, and also nature culture integration and so on. In fact, for the nitrogen cycle input that you gave, Government of India is already participating in a global nitrogen program where Indo-Gangetic plains and the mountains are being linked to, get proof of concept for how nitrogen is impacting the mountain biodiversity. So things are in progress, and I think it will grow more. And thanks for all your suggestions. Now, may I request Dr. I.D. Bhatt, Scientist G, GB Pant National Institute of Himalayan Environment, to share his address on the mainstreaming biodiversity for sustainable development of mountain people. Dr. Bhatt, the floor is yours.
Yes, Madam, please, can you make us the presenter so that we can share the presentation? Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir. I have made you the presenters.
Oh,
as panelist, you can share.
You can share, yes, sir.
Okay. So, can you see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes, yes, visible.
Okay. So, good afternoon, everyone, and respected Additional Secretary Ms. Uma Devi, Honorable Javadkar sir, Joint Secretary Ministry of Environment, Mr. Jigmet Thapa, Vivek Saxena sir, Country Representative Iucn, Major General Manoj K. Bindal, that Executive Director NIDM, Akhilesh Gupta sir from DST, and Mr. Tapas Paul, Senior Environment Specialist, Dr. Rijvi, that is Senior Advisor, and Ms. Kaurini, Sri Pankaj Raina, and Dr. Anil Gupta from NIDM. Yeah, very good afternoon to all of you. So the title of my talk is Mainstreaming Biodiversity for Sustainable Development of Indian Mountain People. The selection of title was based on the theme of this year, Mountain Biodiversity, as it is one of the integral part of the human sustenance in the earth. If you see considering the importance of biodiversity, UN General Assembly in 2010 at COP Nagoya, Japan, declared 2010 as the International Year of Biodiversity, and 2010 to 2020 is Decade of Biodiversity. The aim of declaration to encourage people to discover the biodiversity that surrounds us, realize its value, our connection to it, and consequences of its loss, and act to save it. They have given the slogan Biodiversity is Life and Biodiversity is Your Life. Further, in 2020, biodiversity was the theme on occasion of Environmental Day 2020. And today, International Mountain Day theme is also Mountain Biodiversity. This indicates that how important is biodiversity for us. If you look at the mountain strength, so it covers nearly a quarter of Earth's land surface. It is home to about 1/10 of the global population. It is world's water tower, 60 to 80% of the freshwater supplier. It's about 25% of world's forests are in mountain region. It provides goods and services to at least half of the humankind and around 50% hotspot of global biodiversity. And mountain attracts around 15 to 20% of global tourism. And the mountain is a rich and unique biodiversity hotspot, and it is a center of endemic biodiversity. So mountains are situated in all the continents from Himalaya and from that Asia to the Australasia. And the highest mountain range is found in the Himalayan region. You see that Mount Everest, that is 8,848 meters above, while longest mountain range is found in the Andes in South America. But there are so many challenges in the mountain. They are the climatic sensitive, they are geologically vulnerable, they are geographical isolated, and they are economically marginal. And those challenges that basically provide the out migration to the peoples, and at the same time over exploitation of the resources. And in addition, there are so many threats to the mountain biodiversity, such as growing demands and unplanned development, habitat destruction, changing agriculture and forestry practices, invasion of alien species, overexploitation, and so on. And if you see, there are 1,500 plant taxa invasive in the mountain area, which basically inhibit the that growth of the native species. And if you see this picture is basically the collection of the Ophiocordyceps, as that indicated by Saxena sir, Vivek Saxena sir. So there are so many tents. Though see, this is also one of the basically the impact on the biodiversity, that is mainly for the these tents are for the collection for the Ophiocordyceps in the Himalayan region. If you look at the mountain biodiversity, there are around 10,000 alpine species in the mountains, which are 4% of the total flowering plants. There are 50,000 species of flowering plants, which are around 20% of the total plant diversity. And there are more than 50% of major world crops. If you look at IHR, there are a number of biodiversity elements. Himalayan, there are 719 trees. There are 675 wild edibles. There are around 1,748 medicinal plants. There are essential oil yielding plants. There are orchids and so on. If you see the biodiversity value and ecosystem services, if you consider value of biodiversity, they are providers of provisioning services, supporting services, regulating services, and cultural services. Therefore, biodiversity has potential for sustainable development of mountain people. For example, if we take the medicinal plants and options, because of its importance in pharmaceuticals, cosmeceuticals, nutraceuticals, probiotics, and functional food, the turnover of the domestic herbal industry in India is around 20,000 crores and projected $5 trillion by 2050. The institute is working on the cluster-based approach at farmers field in different area where we are growing medicinal plants at in the clusters, and you see the example of there are 219 farmers are cultivating these medicinal plants in 260, and this project is basically supporting from the National Mission on Himalayan Studies. Another option could be the wild edibles, because the more than 675 species found in IHR, and they can be used for the nutritional and food security. And if you see the number, they are in the different biogeographical provinces. There are 169 in trans-northwest Himalaya, 344 in West Himalaya, 173 in Central Himalaya, and 221 in East Himalaya. And if you see one of the examples that rural market beans involve some 140 tons of wild edible plants, the gross income of Rs 15 lakhs annually in Sikkim area. So this is the potential of the wildly developed species in the Himalayan region. Restoration of the degraded lands could be another option for conserving biodiversity and sustainable development, as it could remove over 26 gigatons of greenhouse gases from atmosphere. And this is more important in a view that 2021 and 2030 is declared as a decade of ecosystem restorations. And this could be a future of local community and for the downstream dependent people. And if we restore our degraded lands, so we can conserve our biodiversity, and that could be the future of biodiversity. And the institute, the G.B. Pant Institute, is basically focusing on the restoration activity at landscape level through support from the different projects. That is a Kailash Sector Landscape Project, that is in Almora, that in Uttarakhand regions, and also in other Himalayan regions, in Sikkim, in Arunachal Pradesh, that through the transboundary projects and through the National Mission of Himalayan Studies product, we are basically restoring the degraded lands in different part of the Himalaya. And biodiversity-based employment, basically promoting green skill building program for skilling unemployed youth, can help promoting conservation and create green workforce. And the institute, through various in-house projects, is organizing various skill building program for the different stakeholders, so that they can be a ambassador of the conservation of biodiversity. And this is the basically aim of the institute, to build the capacity of the unemployed youth for biodiversity, for conservation of biodiversity, and create biodiversity-based employment. Biodiversity-based food can be promoted as it has a high nutritional and medicinal value. For example, millet has certified as a nutritional rich by the government of 2018. Therefore, linking traditional crop products in a midday meal system will definitely promote the biodiversity conservation. And these are some of the basically traditional cuisines. With the institute is working in one of the projects where we have found that the traditional crops are much more nutritious than other crops. And finally, is promoting conservation education, that promoting biodiversity conservation education need to be promoted. And the institute over the years organizing such training workshops with the school students, so that they can be connected with the nature, and the philosophy is catch them young, because they are basically because they are very clear in minds, and their that learning power is much better than the older people. So the institute over the years organized many conservation programs, and around 534 schools of Uttarakhand and 2,524 students have been trained. So thank you so much. And I think this proverb of that Native American, that we do not inherit earth from our ancestors, we have just borrowed it for our children. So we need to conserve, we need to promote conservation of biodiversity, so that we can give it to our next generation. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Bhatt, for your enlightening presentation, and also highlighting some of the work that our Premier Institute for the Mountain Conservation, G.B. Pant, is doing in this field. So thank you so much. I now invite Dr. Ali Raza Rizvi, Senior Advisor, Resilience, Iucn Washington, D.C. office, to highlight some of the Iucn initiatives on ecosystem-based adaptation in the mountains in a global context. Dr. Rizvi, floor is yours.
Thank you, Archana. Honorable Minister Shri Prakash Jadavkar, Ms. Oma Devi, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this occasion. As a union of more than 1,400 member organizations, IUCNs bring together diverse stakeholders across governments and civil society to advance sustainable development and conservation. I am very happy to represent IUCN at this International Mountain Day event. I am responsible for IUCN's Global Climate Adaptation and Disaster Risk Reduction Program. And many of IUCN's projects have focused on mountainous areas and nature-based solutions, particularly in the context of climate change. I will just share a few of these initiatives, as a lot of things which have already been said are really relevant, so I won't go into those details. But overall, if we see that climate change is the immense challenge of our time and requires a dynamic and collaborative response at all levels. So it's great to see that these topics are being addressed at the highest level in India, and IUCN appreciates that the Ministry of Environment and a variety of stakeholders are taking them forward. As my colleagues have emphasized in the opening remarks and preceding statements, the Himalayas are a critical region for biodiversity conservation, climate change adaptation, and disaster risk reduction. As an IC Mode publication noted, around 1.5 billion people depend directly or indirectly on the watersheds of Hindu-Kush Himalayan region. Recognizing this as a crucial interface for building resilience, IUCN works in countries throughout the Himalayas as well as other mountainous areas around the globe. One major IUCN effort focused in the mountain region on nature-based solutions for adaptation to climate change, also known as ecosystem-based adaptation, is the Mountain Eba Program. EBA is an integrative approach to climate change adaptation that emphasizes biodiversity conservation as well as human resilience as critical to its success. The Global Mountain EBA flagship program was implemented in the Himalayas in Nepal, the Andes in Peru, and Mount Elgon in Uganda, started way back in 2011 together with UNDP and UN Environment, with funding from the International Climate Initiative of the German Ministry of Environment, BMUEK. The lessons from this flagship project scaled up into two phases, and now it has incorporated work in Bhutan, Colombia, and Kenya, in addition to Nepal, Peru, and Uganda. This program focuses on implementing EBA in communities on the ground, building evidence of its effectiveness, replicating success, and informing policy. Another IUCN effort that brings together knowledge from different parts of the world is the ecosystem-based approaches to climate change adaptation, strengthening the evidence and informing policy. This is being implemented together with IAED and UNEP WCMC. This initiative focused on a portfolio of established EBA projects in sites across Asia, Africa, and Central and South America, assessing effectiveness of EBA initiatives. Some of the key recommendations I'll share here. The need to recognize the interconnectedness of ecosystem services, societal resilience, and climate change impact, including in national adaptation plans. And the interconnectedness challenge of biodiversity loss and climate change require collaboration across sectors and levels of government. And at all phases of project design and implementation, participatory processes that promote local ownership and institutions, value indigenous and local knowledge, and are based on local culture and priorities are key for ensuring engagement, process legitimacy, and sustainability of the resulting benefits. IUCN has also been building networks across different organizations, representing governments, civil society, private sector actors, donors, and intergovernmental organizations from across all regions of the world through the Friends of EBA or FIBA. The platform brings together diverse stakeholders to share experiences and knowledge, improve the implementation of activity on the ground, and strengthen strategic learning and policy influence. FIBA convenes working group on specialized topics to bring together multidisciplinary engagement and collaborative knowledge sharing. Currently, FIBA members are working on topics such as green-gray infrastructure, urban EBA, the role of biodiversity and climate change, EBA in national adaptation planning, and EBA in humanitarian and post-disaster context. And all of this learning and knowledge generation informs policy processes at UNFCCC and CBD, which are also members of FIBA. A further global and cross-cutting effort I would like to share over here is Iucn Global Standards for Nature-Based Solutions, which was released in 2020. Through nature-based solutions, though nature-based solutions are not new, Iucn aims to clarify what constitutes nature-based solution and facilitate the effective implementation of solution based on established principles. There are robust framework and 8 criteria and 28 indicators for the design and verification of NBS, and these are available on Iucn website. In closing, climate change cannot be addressed in a vacuum. We've been working all over the world, more than 100 countries with 130 projects, and we have realized that transformative climate resilience will remain a pipe dream unless and until we address climate risk concurrently with the social, economic, and ecological vulnerabilities of target groups. Nature-based solution for climate change is the embodiment of sustainable development in the context of climate change, and its premise is based on enhancing adaptive capacities by working on social, economic, and ecological aspect of target communities. Iucn values the work being done in Himalayas to address biodiversity and conservation, climate change, disaster risk, and sustainable development, and appreciates the opportunity to contribute some of Iucn's effort in this area. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rizvi, for sharing your lessons, etc., that have been learned through Iucn initiatives from across the world. And thank you also for joining so early from Washington, D.C. I understand it must be 7 a.m. or so, very early for you. I would now like to request Ms. Corinne Demeng, Head of Swiss Cooperation Office, Embassy of Switzerland, to share the recent experiences in the Indian Himalayan region from the various projects that SDC has been involved in. Ms. Corinne, floor is yours.
Yes, good evening. Good evening, everybody. Honorable Minister Sri Prakash Chavatkar, honorable panel members, dear ladies and gentlemen listening to us. It's a great honor to be with you for this very important day. And on behalf of the government of Switzerland, I would like to wish you all a very happy International Mountain Day. As a Swiss citizen, I grew up in the middle of the mountains with glaciers, and I've experienced myself how this fragile landscape, it has changed and has come under pressure due to climate change. And I fully agree with what was said before me, that we probably all have to do more, be it in Switzerland, be it in India, or be it globally. But there is a lot of action going on, as it was mentioned today, so I'm very hopeful. And there's a lot of knowledge, also traditional knowledge by the people living in the mountains. Looking at the time, I'd just like to highlight some of the recent experiences in the Indian Himalayan region. This means the concrete actions that Switzerland has been supporting through SDC, the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation in India. So SDC, in partnership with the Department of Science and Technology, DST, has been engaged in a climate vulnerability assessment across the entire Himalayan region. I believe Dr. Gupta mentioned it earlier on. This vulnerability assessment, which was developed with active participation of various stakeholders, identifies the percentage of areas under forest cover as one of the key indicators of vulnerability in a mountainous region. The assessment acknowledges the key role forests play in enhancing adaptive capacity by safeguarding ecological processes, by providing biophysical stability and alternating livelihood options. Livelihood options, for example, through the extraction of fodder, fuel wood, or non-timber forest products. The vulnerability assessment has and should help in prioritizing climate actions at the state level. Ladies and gentlemen, secondly, SDC has been collaborating with DST and NITI Aayog to initiate multi-stakeholder dialogues to identify the problems and the potential solution to springshed revival and springshed management. Springshed management was mentioned before, and I also believe it's crucial if we want to conserve biodiversity in the mountains. Because we all know that with the changing climatic conditions and development activities, a large proportion of springs, which are the key source of drinking water in the hills and mountains, including also in the Himalayan region, have either dried out or have reduced discharge of water. The revival of spring is a nature-based solution for drinking water security, but also for biodiversity. The collaboration with DST and NITI Aayog led to the development of a report compiling information on various initiatives being undertaken in the Indian Himalayan region. Moreover, in partnership with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change and the state governments of Uttarakhand and Sikkim, SDC has undertaken on-ground activities in reviving springs. In Uttarakhand, a pilot project for demonstrating springshed management was undertaken through scientific assessment and planning in the Kalsi block of Dehradun district. The Uttarakhand Forest Department replicated the pilot project on spring conservation in 30 other vulnerable forest blocks. Currently, SDC is working with NITI Aayog and the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, as well as state governments in the Himalayan region to bring in innovation in springshed management, particularly in terms of introducing new land treatment methods, monitoring of water quality, and developing decision support systems. SDC is also collaborating with NITI Aayog for documenting best practices in springshed management in the Himalayan region. The document is envisaged to be a ready reckoner for state government to identify suitable interventions for further exploration. Thirdly, SDC is also supporting an initiative on nutrition in mountainous ecosystems, which aims to scale up promising sustainable agricultural practices that help to diversify and enhance nutrition and resilience in mountainous areas. We have worked very closely with the government of Uttarakhand for implementing a pilot on the climate resilient development of forest-dependent communities in Uttarakhand, which presented a unique model of convergence of government schemes for community benefits. Then one important recent development where we contributed is the development of the guidelines for management of glacial lake outburst floods, the so-called GLOFs, that were also mentioned by Mr. Chigmatakpa. So these GLOFs that become more frequent, and there are these national guidelines that were developed by the National Disaster Management Authority, happy to state that the guidelines have been released by NDMA in October this year. Congratulations. SDC has also supported the design of an early warning system to forewarn for any flash floods or GLOFs in the Parvati Valley in Himachal Pradesh. And hopefully we will soon start working on designing the GLOF early warning system in Lonak Lake in Sikkim. So I really would like to thank all of our partners, the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, DST, NITI Aayog, all the government agencies that we closely work together, as well as the state governments in the Indian Himalayan region, The collaboration between our two countries has been excellent. Maybe it's due to the DNA because both of us have beautiful, magnificent mountains. And we very much look forward to continue collaborating in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Demeng, and thank you for highlighting the close cooperation that the Swiss agency, the Swiss Development Cooperation, has been having with the Government of India for the conservation and sustainable development in our mountain region. Thank you so much. May I now invite Mr. Pankaj Raina, Wildlife Warden Ladakh, to share his views on the biodiversity of cold desert. Sorry, I got a message just now that he has not been able to join due to certain technical issues. So with that, I think it brings us to the end of the technical presentations. I would now request Dr. Anil Gupta, Professor and Head, ECDRM, National Institute for Disaster Management, to sum up the breadth of discussion, rich discussions that presentations that we have had, and also for the vote of thanks. Dr. Gupta.
Thank you, Archana, for nicely moderating the session. And in fact, the length and breadth of the discussions that took place in the session, that is not very easy to summarize in few lines. And we have already decided that we will be coming out with a detailed report and a summary recommendations also. However, some of the points which I could note as have emerged from as a kind of a cross-cutting recommendations and lessons from the range of discussions. The very first thing is that mountains are the great treasure, but it is also equally important that these mountains are equally vulnerable to climate and disaster risk, and their vulnerability is also quite dynamic in nature. So that is aggravated under the implications of climate change, various social and anthropogenic pressures also. Then the need of conservation is not an emotional or a religious need, but a fundamental need for sustaining our resources. So the resources of not only the Himalayan people or the mountain people, but the people downstream are the riparian areas. So people's resources are some or other way depending on the intactness of mountain ecosystems. Then local level initiatives and capacity building for disaster risk reduction along with the adaptation initiatives is crucial, and therefore looking at the linkage with livelihood, health and food resources are fundamental. Another point that has been emphasized by a number of experts, that mountains are also of key importance for water and climate security, and also looking from the angle of social and environmental justice. So touching upon the gender issues, gender justice, and the other social dimensions also. Then in order to foster a systemic effort for mountain ecosystem conservation and biodiversity-based sustainability initiatives, it is needed to enable an integrated planning framework, because in India we have a state action plan for all the states and UTs, state action plan for climate change, a legally required disaster management plan at the state level and also at the district level. So that is a legal mandate. And recently the Government of India initiative that each and every district is coming up with environment action plan. So looking at integrated framework. Then a number of programs and projects are dealt by a number of ministries and departments and academic and other practicing institutions. So some kind of a integrated framework for sustainable mountain development would also help in resource optimization and avoiding the duplicacy and enhancing the benefits. Then the other point that also has come up as there are a number of good examples and excellent projects also. So some kind of initiative to develop some kind of a compendium of case studies, and this should be a regular, this can be a regular practice where the lessons of the demonstrable pilots can be included. So, and some of the other experiences which have also been touched upon by some of the speakers and have also emerged from the recent experiences, for example, in Uttarakhand, that post-disaster reconstruction and recovery program. So how we integrate carbon neutrality and ecosystem resilience issues within post-disaster recovery, reconstruction, and rehabilitation programs. Then last point is about NIDM's engagement on climate change initiatives. Currently, we are hosting a Center of Excellence on Climate Resilience, implementing a Department of Science Technology supported project under National Knowledge Mission on Climate Change. And there, in fact, we are taking this subject of mountain ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction as an important component. So very important lessons have come out. We have recorded the entire deliberation, and we will be looking at it, and will be coming out the significant key recommendations from each and every speaker of the today's session, and that will be also helpful in improving our approach of prioritizing the geographical areas, prioritizing various programs and interventions, and also improving the future initiatives. So it has been really a wonderful initiative, and I must compliment the initiative from International Union for Conservation of Nature and Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change to have thought of this important discourse today. And first of all, it is my profound duty to extend my sincere thanks on behalf of the entire organizing team, all the participating experts and members, to Honorable Minister of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, Shri Prakash Javadekar ji, who is always very supportive to the conservation initiatives, and past 10 years or so, we have been listening to his guiding words, and which are always full of wisdom and a lot of practical insights. So today also, when he was he delivered his message, so message has come from his own experience and also touched upon the sensitivity of the issue. So a bit of kind of a personal interest that has, and commitment that has also been shown. Thanks to our keynote speaker of the day, Madam Uma Devi, Additional Secretary, Ministry of Environment and Forests. She is always very supportive to knowledge dissemination endeavors and the National Mission on Himalayan Ecosystem and the all climate change related programs. She is always very supportive, and she's always guides all of us. Dr. Jigmit Tapka, the moment this concept was discussed with him, he readily agreed, and he was deeply involved into the entire planning process and in delivery of today's program. So thanks to Dr. Takpa for this as part of the team and also as a guiding force. Dr. Akhilesh Gupta, advisor and head of Department of Science and Technology, who is also former secretary of University's Grants Commission. Dr. Akhilesh Gupta is heading two mission programs on climate change at Department of Science and Technology, besides strategic and large programs, and a true climate scientist known within the country and outside. And he is also leading the science and technology innovation policy of the country, and recently has been finalized. He is the key player for that. So we are also looking at how science and technology and innovation policy going to support the climate risk and climate science initiatives in the country. And we are very thankful for him for his deliberation. Mr. Tapas Paul from World Bank, there has been a very significant contribution from World Bank towards integrating sustainability and resilience issues into all the gamut of developmental plans and programs in the country. And there is always a kind of a joint learning, and a number of projects in development sector, but also in disaster risk reduction area has also been supported by World Bank. So his experience has been very enriching for all of us. Thanks, Mr. Paul, for this. Dr. Ali has he encompassed the experiences of IUCN all over the world, and IUCN as one of the leading player in promoting ecosystem approach to DRR, and also the nature-based solutions. I also represent IUCN SEM South Asia, so it has been really a great happiness to listen to his experiences. And recently, we have also released an edited volume from Springer Nature on nature-based solutions, encompassing the case studies from Asia Pacific, where IUCN has been a great support. And very importantly, the Indian Himalaya Capacity Building Program, ICAP, has been steered by the Embassy of Switzerland, SDC. So the experience and the partnership between India and Indian organizations with SDC and the government of Switzerland under various initiatives has been a very significant contributor for over past 10 years or so. So deliberation by Ms. Corinne Demeg has been very important, and some of the issues that she referred are very important strategic points for enabling effectiveness to our future programs also, and we have taken note of all those. Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal, Executive Director, NIDM, has always been a source of inspiration and support to the entire team, and has always fostered this kind of collaborative and cooperation programs on various dimensions of climate change, sustainable mountain development, and disaster resilience initiatives. Mr. Vivek Saxena, my good friend for past over 15 years or so, we have been an opportunity of working together at several fronts. So it has been his idea that we should organize this kind of joint program, and that the recommendations of which can lead us for improving the overall picture of mountain initiatives in the country. So thank you to Dr. Saxena also, and his entire team of IUCN, Ms. Archana, and the entire team. The entire team of Ministry of Environment and Forests, Dr. Lalit Kapoor, Mrs. Sharad, Dr. Sharad, and the entire team of all the institutions, including NIDM also, I may miss out some names, but each and every member who has contributed for planning and delivering and coordinating this program has been very important. All the members from all the three organizations. The program has been a success by the participation of a range of the officials, professionals, researchers, and NGOs, and also across a number of sectors from within the country, but also there are some participants I have seen that they are from other countries also. So their interest in sustainable mountain initiatives in India is also witnessed. So we are thankful to all the participants for joining and making this program a great success. It has been live on YouTube, and a great number of participants have been watching from YouTube also. We will be taking the record their details on record. So we very shortly will be coming with the report of today's deliberation. So with this, I thank you each and everyone who made this program a success. Over to you, Dr. Archana.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Gupta, for your summarizing the rich discussion and the deliberations, and also the vote of thanks. So I guess we can close the event and take the conversations further through the recommendations of this virtual event, and also wishing everyone International Mountain Day, good wishes, and may the good work continue with all of us. Thank you all. Thanks for your participation.
Thank you. Thanks to Dr. Shweta, Rai, and Harshit, and the entire
Thanks, sir.
team.
Thanks. Yes, sir. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Tapka and Madam Oma, Dr. Gupta, Mr. Bindal, and all the participants, my IUCN colleague from all the way from Washington in early hours, Mr. Ali Raza Rizvi. And it's really nice to have beginning of this partnership on the occasion of the Mountain Day. I think with this beginning of this partnership, we can have more and more such forums for conservation related aspects to take forward. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, sir.